Hello, everybody. This is Katie Hamilton, holistic nutritionist and health and transformation coach. I am hopping on live to share with you something that is near and dear to my heart because it's something that I have experienced and helped myself heal from. And it's also somewhat challenging to discussion to talk about. So I have really a lot of heart and compassion and passion behind this topic. So autoimmune disease. I am going to be diving into autoimmune disease and essentially debunking this diagnosis and label from the medical community that our body is attacking itself. And I will be sharing with you what is actually underlying this mass epidemic or pandemic of chronic illness amongst humanity, and the increase and rise of symptoms that are occurring across all ages, across the world, and have been labeled autoimmune disease. And within autoimmune, that's the umbrella term for many different symptoms and conditions that have been given specific labels. And today I'm going to zero in on the thyroid and the thyroid conditions that have been given labels. But I'll also be touching upon other symptoms and conditions as well that you might recognize yourself or a friend or a loved one in that may have this condition. And this is going to be a 3 to 4 part series talk. So today I'm going to introduce autoimmune. I'm going to be introducing what is causing it, and then talking about the different stages that your body goes through, and specifically the thyroid. And then the next talk, I'm going to be talking about the triggers that activate and progress the symptoms. And then I'm going to be getting into how to heal. Okay, so there's a lot to cover, and some of this information might be challenging your belief systems, especially if you are someone who has been given an autoimmune diagnosis and label. This video might be a lot to take in. And I'm going to ask if you have any questions to leave them in the chat box, and I will be happy to answer them at the end of this video. Or if you're watching in the future, you can leave them and I will return and answer your questions. Also, if you want to get in touch with me personally, my email is Katie Laura Hamilton, Katie, Laura Hamilton @gmail.com. Some of these symptoms might be, and your stories might be really personal, and if you would like to reach out for support or to ask a question, you can email me. I'm here for you, okay? So, autoimmune. I'm gonna paint a picture. So you have been struggling with symptoms and health issues like mystery weight gain, fatigue, challenge with sleeping, falling asleep, staying asleep, hair falling out, brittle nails, dry skin. Maybe you experience heart palpitations or mood swings, depression, anxiety that doesn't really have a reason. Maybe numbness, tingling, restless leg syndrome, vertigo. And you have these symptoms and you go to the doctor, because that's often where we turn to for answers. You go to the doctor and you share your symptoms with the doctor. And the doctor suspects some things and they decide to take some tests, and they call you back in and they sit you down and they say, given the test results that we see here, we've checked your thyroid, it's enlarged, you have increased antibodies, increase in your TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, and your hypothyroid symptoms. We're going to let you know that you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And you say, oh, at least, thank you. Thank you for giving me an answer to my challenges, to my symptoms, to my health problems. I really appreciate it. But what does that mean? And the doctor says, well, what that means is that you have an autoimmune condition. Autoimmune, okay? Still don't understand what that means. What causes autoimmune? Well, perhaps it's genetic, and perhaps it's an environmental trigger that turned on your genes, but your immune system is confused, and it's thinks that your thyroid is a foreign invader, and it's now attacking your thyroid. It's attacking your thyroid, and it is destroying your thyroid over time. And you sit back, and so that at first that feeling of like, wow, I got answers to my problem, all of a sudden this sinking feeling sets in, and you feel like I'm being betrayed by my body, and this sort of hopelessness and overwhelm hits, and your doctor says, and you're like, well, why would my body turn on itself? That doesn't make sense. And your doctor says, well, we still don't really know the answer to that, but let's talk about medication. And maybe this isn't how it went down for you. Maybe they diagnosed you with Graves' disease or hyper or hypothyroid, or perhaps nodules or cysts or tumors, or even worse, cancer. Or maybe your symptoms, you experience these symptoms, and maybe you self-diagnosed yourself by Googling your symptoms online, and the diagnosis of autoimmune or Hashimoto's or Graves came up, and so you've diagnosed yourself. Or maybe you know a loved one with these symptoms who have been given this diagnosis. But either way, autoimmune has struck you or someone you know. And when you've been given this label, or you hear of someone's immune system turning on itself, it's a really hopeless and stressful experience. So stress levels rise. You go and you fill out the medication because you've been told by your doctor that the medication is the only way to help prolong or ward off or heal, not even heal, but sort of like deal with the symptoms of what you're experiencing. And so ultimately the medication will not support you, and we'll get into the why behind that. But you think that taking the medication is doing your body good, and that's the right thing to do. And maybe you change a few things around exercise or diet. But along the way, you don't notice that your symptoms, your health issues, they don't get better. They actually just continue to get worse. And you wonder, why is my body attacking itself? So, this is a really challenging thing for me to talk about, because I'm going to be going up against the medical community here. But it's a big mission of mine to bring forward a truth that helped to save my life, actually, because I had been told like a very similar thing, and I did not believe that my body was attacking itself. I wouldn't accept that. And so I went on a mission to find answers. And ultimately, what I discovered, and it all made sense when I went back into my history, was that this autoimmune label was a hypothesis. It was a guess at best. There is no proof. And this guess was that, well, as the doctor, as a doctor and as the medical institution, we have, over the last 100 years, we have more and more people coming to us with symptoms that we cannot understand where they're coming from and what's causing them. And so they hello? Did I lose everybody? Let me know if it just looked like the internet went down. Are we still watching? Okay, I'm gonna continue talking as if this is happening. And so they guessed and they actually blamed ourselves and our own bodies. And there is, okay, we're back. We're back. Okay, good. Sorry I lost you. The connection here in this backyard. By the way, I'm giving this talk by a pool outside, which is quite lovely because I've been inside in this heat for many, many days. And so if the internet connection comes in and out, I'm sorry about that. So they created a guess. They created a guess at best. They still don't have proof for this guess, though they assume that the antibodies in the blood are actually created from our immune system attacking itself. That's not what's happening. The antibodies are going and attacking something else. So our body is under attack, but it's not what we've been told. It's not our body turning on itself. And I have a lot of respect for the medical community. I just want to say that right now. I have a lot of respect for the medical community. I have a niece right now waiting to get surgery, and they are experts in certain fields. They are experts at emergency care. They are experts at being able to do a heart transplant. If we come to them with a broken arm, and for them to be able to help heal us and put a cast on. They are experts at certain things. But when it comes to chronic illness, they are not experts. And so when we go to them and we ask them to support us, we could be given, and many people are given, misleading information or just completely untrue information that is not true and not supporting you, because they don't have all the answers, and that's okay. And my wish is that they would be humble enough to say, we don't have the answers, we don't know what's causing your symptoms, and we're not going to make a guess that it's your body attacking itself, because that's probably going to just depress you more. So what is causing all of this chronic illness amongst humanity, and what is creating this challenge for us in the last 100 years? A virus. There has been a viral pathogen explosion in the last 100 years that has gone under the radar. And the connection went low. So I'm going to keep talking, and hopefully that this is all being recorded and you can still see and still watch. And so we have been essentially experiencing a viral explosion that has been going under the radar in the medical community. And because of that, it has been, this virus has actually been able to mutate and grow from what was once benign and had strains that would barely affect us to now 60 different strains that are causing some of the worst debilitating illness of our time. And this virus has been fed food that has also been on the rise and increase in the last 100 years. So there's about 7 things I want to share with you that are the real causes, the true underlying causes of thyroid disease, all the umbrella diseases that have been labeled autoimmune. All of these have a cause that is not your body attacking self. Viral, chemical, toxic exposure. We are all now on an earth that has more chemicals, more toxins, more pollutants in the home we live, in the air we breathe, in the water we drink, in the soil we grow our food, than ever before in human history. And we are not exempt from the damage and the consequences of these toxins and these pollutants that have been on the rise during the Industrial Revolution, the last 100 years or more. And these toxins, as we know, are polluting our waters, polluting Mother Earth, creating a crisis for Mother Earth. And she's a macrocosm and we are a microcosm. We are made of her substance. We ingest her material. And if she's polluted, so are we. And the pollutants that we're exposed to have become very aggressive, very intense, and the heavy metals that we're exposed to end up being the virus's favorite, this specific virus, favorite food. And the virus has learned how to adapt and eat the very fuel that harms us and make it stronger. You see, viruses have an incredible interest in living. They have a huge passion for life, and they're intelligent. They're intelligent, and they have intelligence. They also eat. They're not just self-replicating as the medical community says they are. They actually need fuel. And the fuel they need lives in your body. It lives in your organs, and it's not being detoxified quick enough because we are inundated with too much and the organs can't handle it. So we have the causes: viral explosion, increasing in their strains, their mutation, and their strength. We have an increase in the rise of toxic chemicals, all the way from the toxins in a new car that are off-gassing to carpets are one of the most toxic things in a home. We don't necessarily smell the toxins, but we're inhaling them for months and months, maybe years. If you get your carpet cleaned, not by a green cleaner, those are incredibly toxic. The clothes that we wear often have fire retardant on them. The pesticides on food that we eat that are sprayed on one farm that then blow onto another, even if it is organic, and the list continues. The third thing that is causing the chronic illness and breaking down the tissues and organs and feeding the virus is radiation. I've spoken about this before in a different video. Radiation is something we are increasingly exposed to from our cell phones, which I'm using right now to record this video. And when cell phones first came out, there was warning: don't put it in your pockets. It's not good for your reproductive system. Where did those warnings go? The cell phones are still sending out radiation. They're still bad for us, potentially. There's always proof either way, but let's just tune into our own intuition on that one. X-rays that we've had for our teeth, or if we had any health issues, CT scans, radiation falling out from the fallout from Hiroshima, from World War II, still falling out from the atmosphere. That goes into our soil and that feeds the viruses. DDT, and a very aggressive pesticide that is still in our soil and waters. It doesn't go away. It was just the 1950s that a salesman would come to your door with an apple and spray it with DDT and eat it and say that it was actually a nutrient. Kids would bathe themselves in the trucks as they sprayed lawns and create a soapy experience, and the kids would bathe themselves in the DDT. These get passed down from generation to generation. These chemicals get passed down from generation to generation, and so does the virus. Increase in antibiotics and pharmaceuticals. One of the virus's favorite foods, antibiotics and pharmaceuticals. And the increase in processed foods and the decrease in the nutrients and the nutrient-rich soil in which our food grows. And the increase in the amount that humans eat processed foods, fast foods, canned foods, anything that is not whole in its state from Mother Earth. There's been a rise and an increase over the last 60 years. And all of these culminate to create this health crisis that we're experiencing of chronic illness. And I'm sure when you hear this, it starts to make sense. It's not like Katie's speaking some crazy language right now about why we're all ill and why most of us will be, in the next 20 years, most of us will have some sort of autoimmune diagnosis. And when we choose to believe that our immune system is faulty and broken, and our bad genes that we've been passed all of a sudden woke up and now our body's attacking itself, we are misled from the actual information and knowledge and the healing power of what can heal the body. If we believe we just take these pharmaceutical pills for the rest of our life and that's it, we've missed out on really gaining the empowerment to understand what is happening. Because what is happening can heal. We can actually heal from it. And I'm living proof. I have my own story, and I have many clients to share their story about how they've healed from what they were diagnosed with, basically with something that they were not ever going to heal in their lifetime. Okay? So, the virus, what's its name? The virus is Epstein-Barr virus. Epstein-Barr, where did that name come from? So the medical community in 1964, two doctors, Anthony Epstein and Yvonne Barr, discovered a strain, one of the strains of Epstein-Barr. And then all of a sudden their research, just like that, was cut. The funding was cut, and they had to stop researching this virus. And essentially, if they continued, potentially, many people would have answers, and the virus wouldn't have been able to go under the radar and increase in its numbers and its aggressiveness. Okay, so this virus, Epstein-Barr virus, it is, as I was saying before, it's responsible for some of the most debilitating illnesses of our time: fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, chronic fatigue syndrome, that's what I was suffering from for 10 years, and cancer. And this virus, I'm going to pause because it stopped recording again, but it says it's recording. So sorry about the low connection. There's a reason that this virus, Epstein-Barr virus, expresses itself differently in different humans. I might have contracted a certain strain of Epstein-Barr, and you might have contracted a different strain of Epstein-Barr. There's now 60 different strains, and they have about 10 different groups, or sorry, 6 different groups with 10 in each group. Okay? And I'm going to talk about and share with you the different stages that this virus goes through, because it moves through different stages, and it's not inevitable that it's going to go to each stage. And again, when we have the knowledge and the empowerment and the tooling to know how to heal and prevent it from progressing, we can do that. And that will be in a couple of talks when I start talking about how to heal from this. But first, I'm going to lay down the education and the knowledge so that you understand what's actually happening in your body, because knowledge is power. So the first stage of Epstein-Barr virus, you contract it. And it's actually quite easy to contract Epstein-Barr virus in case it was actually once deemed the kissing disease, because in stage 2, it progresses to mono. In stage 1, you contract it. Maybe it was actually given to you at birth. So again, generation from generation, not just passes down toxic chemicals and heavy metals, but also viruses and bacteria. So I'm pretty sure I was born with it because my family has symptoms. So I'm pretty sure that it was just passed down to me, but I also could have contracted it as well. And so the first stage, you might not even feel much. You might just feel a slight scratchy throat, maybe a mild fever, maybe feeling like you have a cold, but nothing that would alarm you to contracting anything of importance to go to the doctor. And if you did go to the doctor, it doesn't mean that you would have actually received the help that you need anyways. And so in this stage, it is living in your bloodstream. Okay, so it's living in your bloodstream, and it's building its numbers, but it's not eliminating any chemicals, and it's not attracting your immune system quite yet. So it's sort of just hovering and in the mild strains, this could actually just exist for the rest of your life, and it might never progress to stage 2, and you might never know that you have Epstein-Barr living inside of your body. And especially if your environmental situation and the way you treat yourself and the way you feed yourself doesn't trigger it, okay? So in the next video, I'll get into the triggers that progress the virus into the next stage. So stage 1 is more like the incubation stage for the virus. Now, stage 2 is where it starts to wage war. Stage 2, it's now in your blood, and all of a sudden it starts to eliminate a chemical that is like blowing the foghorn or like blowing the battle horn that is saying, I'm here. And its goal is to weaken your immune system. It now goes to war with your immune system. And your immune system comes to the battleground and starts tagging the virus and then sends out killer cells to kill it. And they go back and forth. And during this stage, you will experience something called mononucleosis. So when I was young, I think I was like 12 years old, I got hit so hard with mono. I thought I was dying. Like it was so intense. My throat, it was so swollen, I could barely breathe. They said my white blood cell counts were so high, I was in isolation for 3 weeks. I had a crazy fever, incredibly fatigued. And they knew that this, and it's true, actually, this is the most contagious stage. And they knew that, so no one was allowed to see me. It was pretty brutal. So I have a friend who was triggered in university, and her mono activated in university. And university is a really big time that triggers the Epstein-Barr virus to move into stage 2, because we're exhausted from partying at night, studying hard, the stress of exams, eating poor food, you name it. Your new environment, just moved away from home. All of these environmental triggers can trigger it into the next stage, and it will take advantage. And so for my friend, she was sharing with me, she's like, yeah, I had mono. And for me, mono lasted, I said, yeah, it's supposed to last like anywhere between like 3 weeks and a month or so. She goes, no, I had it for 6 months. 6 months I was fighting the mono. I was fighting Epstein-Barr essentially. And so this is the point. It's very personal, and it can go misdiagnosed in this stage. Not all tests, the tests aren't necessarily accurate, and not all doctors will recognize what's happening. So you might have had this, but never been given the label mono. Okay, so you might not be identifying yourself right now as this, but maybe you had it, but you didn't even know. It also can be mild. It doesn't have to come on that strong either. So that's what's sort of tricky about this. And why it's hard to really diagnose but your symptoms later will make it very obvious. So the whole goal in this is to weaken your immune system, okay? It wants to weaken your lymphatic system and lower your defense mechanism. Now, in this stage, your immune system most likely at some point will start to win the battle. Some of Epstein-Barr will still hang out in the blood, but most of it will say, we need to go find a home so that we can hide out and strengthen our numbers and come up with a different strategy. And so it will find an organ. And one of its favorite organs to go hide out in is the liver, the spleen, and the reproductive system. And this is what happens. This is what starts to do the damage that creates the symptoms that a lot of my clients come to me with that have been misdiagnosed autoimmune disease, or, funny enough, it's not funny, but interestingly enough, menopause. A lot of these symptoms have been misdiagnosed as menopause, and it's not because of your reproductive hormones or the stop of your menses. It's because your liver is burdened and being attacked by a virus. So when it goes into your liver, the Epstein-Barr virus damages your liver cells. And it starts to create a sluggish, overburdened, damaged liver. And now your liver, if you don't know about your liver, I want you to just give your liver thanks right now. Your liver is working like, if you've ever worked 4 jobs at once, raised kids, and tried to take care of yourself, your liver is doing 10 times more work than that. Your liver works so hard to try to filter your blood, process your fats, and do 2,000 other different chemical processes a day for you, okay? So when your liver becomes burdened, and the next place that your liver pumps blood, by the way, is your heart. When your liver becomes overburdened, the first sign is mystery weight gain. Your body becomes sluggish, and your body starts storing all these toxins that it cannot process as fat, okay? And also edema or swelling will happen as well. So a puffiness. This is a sign that your liver is overwhelmed, potentially by Epstein-Barr virus. And so unfortunately, the weight gain, the first sign that people experience, they go to their trainers or nutritionists or naturopaths and they say, oh, you just need to exercise more and we need to put you on a diet. And often the diet they put them on is one of the trendy diets that's paleo, high fat, high protein, and yes, cut down on sugar. So that also includes fruit. And their symptoms get worse and they don't lose the weight and they feel more fatigued and they keep exercising and they feel more fatigued and the weight doesn't come off. Why? Because it's not It has nothing to do with how much you're exercising. It has everything to do with a burdened liver that is more further burdened by a diet high in fat and protein. Okay, your liver processes all your fats. Your liver needs a break from fats, and it needs way more fruit and vegetables because the fruits have the antivirals that go in and kill the virus and heal the damage. You need to be eating more fruit. But again, I'll talk more about how to heal from this in the third video. Okay, so that's what happens to your liver. Now, if the Epstein-Barr goes and hides out in your liver and a little bit in your reproductive system, and if you're a woman, it can express itself as fibroids, PCOS, complications with getting pregnant, painful periods, and so on. If you're a man, the Epstein-Barr virus drills into your prostate, and it is one of the causes of prostate cancer and also complications with getting pregnant. So, and the other problems from Epstein-Barr virus nesting in your liver are type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, hepatitis, food sensitivities, lowered hydrochloric acid, which equals poor digestion, increased bloating, constipation, gas, diarrhea, and you are not metabolizing and breaking down food properly if you have low hydrochloric acid in your stomach, which means you're not extracting the nutrients, and your liver is going to suffer even more, and so will your immune system. You start to see how it's all connected. So much to share. Are you with me? Are you still with me? Okay. So, stage 3. Not all of us get to stage 3, but if you have the right environmental triggers, it can progress into stage 3. And this is where we talk about the thyroid. Stage 3 is the thyroid stage. The Epstein-Barr virus has now been living in your liver, going undetected by blood tests, creating a whole slew of chronic illness and issues that are being mislabeled, and it's causing a lot of damage to your liver. It's increasing the amount. So it's like a Pac-Man eating all the chemicals. By the way, all the chemicals and toxins in your body go to the liver. It follows and it eats them like Pac-Man. It loves mercury. It loves mercury, heavy metals, mercury that comes in from eating fish like swordfish or tuna, mercury that came in from your dental fillings, mercury that's coming from the environment because it's not going anywhere. And there's been a lot pumped into the oceans and the water as well over the past 100 years. And then every other toxin that hangs out in your liver. So it is having a heyday and it's strengthening its numbers. And what it does is it poops out something, or it eliminates something that is 10 times worse than the thing it's eating. Okay, so mercury is really bad unto itself, but when this Epstein-Barr virus ingests mercury and then eliminates, it actually eliminates something 10 times worse. And this starts to fill up your lymphatic system. Now your lymphatic system is overloaded because your liver can't handle this toxic burden, and it pushes it out into the lymphatic system. Once it goes into the lymphatic system, a warning goes off. And your thyroid has its own immune system. And your thyroid has lymphocytes that are being pulled away from the thyroid to try to help fight this battle. And this is actually the Epstein-Barr virus's plan, is to weaken the defense of your thyroid so that it can get all the way into your thyroid and start causing damage there. Okay, so it is an intelligent entity that wants to live, and it has a game plan. So in stage 3, it now progresses, it moves from your liver. So it's created a little bit of a diversion over here, battles fighting over here, and a lot of them go streamlined to your thyroid. And it has some of the Epstein-Barr virus has cells that drill and spiral into your thyroid. And as they do that, they're killing thyroid cells, and they're mutating the thyroid cells, and they're damaging the thyroid gland, creating inflammation. There's only 2 things that create inflammation: acute trauma. So say you fell and bumped your shoulder, that would create inflammation, or pathogens, specifically viruses. Those are the only 2 things that create inflammation in the body, not your immune system. Your immune system is not creating the inflammation. The inflammation is caused by a pathogen. So the Epstein-Barr virus twists and spins into the tissue, killing and damaging the gland. And these deeper Epstein-Barr viruses that are hanging out in your thyroid are actually harder to find. Your immune system has to do a lot more work to go in and find them. And keep in mind, some of the Epstein-Barr virus hangs back in your liver, still causing problems, hangs back in your spleen and your reproductive system, still causing problems. And now it's overspilling its toxins into the lymphatic system, causing more problems. We don't really like Epstein-Barr virus, do we, very much? And it's, and so in the thyroid, what it can create is something at first, the first level would be hypothyroidism, decreasing the amount of thyroid hormones that are being produced, or hyperthyroidism, increasing the tissue. So increasing the amount of tissue that like otherwise would not be growing, and increasing in the thyroid and increasing the amount of thyroid hormones. These are being detected in blood tests. And so if it progresses and it gets any worse, then they label it Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is hypothyroidism. It's essentially a severely inflamed thyroid that is underproducing thyroid hormones. Or you've been given a diagnosis of Graves' disease, or hyperthyroidism, which is essentially when it starts to enlarge and it grows more tissue, and it starts to increase the amount of thyroid hormone in your system. Or a different strain will go in and cause cysts to calcium prisons, cysts to grow, which are calcium prisons encapsulating the Epstein-Barr virus, which then can create, if it continues, it can actually create a tumor, which could be benign or cancerous, again, depending on the Epstein-Barr virus strain you have, which is why it's so tricky, because it really appears differently in different people according to the strain that you have. So the symptoms in this stage, so let's see if you can identify yourself or a loved one or someone you know. This is where you're going to experience fatigue, brain fog, heart palpitations, bloating, confusion, hot flashes, anxiety, sleep issues, aches and pains, chronic sore throat, mild fever, tingles and numbness throughout the body, brittle nails, dry skin, dizziness, and there's more. But that's a list, and if you find yourself somewhere in there, you very well could be dealing with Epstein-Barr virus in your body. And now, even though this is the thyroid stage, I want you to know that these symptoms aren't just created because of a damaged thyroid. These symptoms are created because of a damaged liver. And absolutely, nutrition can heal. In fact, that's exactly how I healed from this. I discovered this information 5 years ago, and I instantly changed my diet, and I started to notice differences right away. So I want to just give you I want to share a little bit about my journey, because I know stories are powerful, and I haven't shared much of this publicly, because I also want to just share that when you've been diagnosed with something like chronic fatigue syndrome, which is what I had, you don't look ill. I didn't look ill from the outside. I didn't have a broken bone. Nothing was bleeding out of my body. And so when you have these symptoms and other people don't, it's almost like very isolating. It's very isolating because they just don't understand, why are you so tired? Why can't you get out of bed? You're lazy. You get given labels of like, you're lazy. You just don't want to work. What's wrong with you? It's all in your head. And I've had many clients come to me sharing stories like this. And I went to countless doctors, and I was told I had low iron, because the Epstein-Barr virus was eating it up. So I was told to go on iron pills, which I tuned into my body, and it said absolutely don't go on iron pills. I found out later, if I was to go on those iron pills, the virus would have become like a super virus instantly, because it eats up that iron, that free iron, so quickly. So I was happy that I always had strong intuition, and I just prayed. I basically prayed every day, because I felt like if something didn't change, I don't think I'm going to live into my 40s. and I had a slew of symptoms, but the chronic fatigue was the worst. It got so bad. So I started my career teaching fitness, and then I went into nutrition, and then teaching yoga, and then I got into sort of like holistic healthcare, really understanding mind-body connection, and that healing stems from so much more than just the physical world, but nutrition is foundational. And I was like at a loss. I couldn't teach my classes. I could barely make any money. And I was on the floor. I basically spent years laying on the floor wondering how I'm going to live my life. And I was, hearing from clients who have kids, like, just almost breaks my heart, because they have kids they have to take care of, and they're experiencing this. And teens that are experiencing this, who can barely get up and go to university, and watching their friends have a great time, and they can't even work part-time and go to university and live their life, and their parents have no idea what's wrong with them. And so, these symptoms they're very, very debilitating. And when we don't have our health, we realize we have nothing else really matters. And so I dedicated my life to discovering what was going on with me and how to help other people, so I could get the answers that were actually going to make a difference. So in this third stage, it is essentially weakening your endocrine system. And, most people hang out in that stage. They don't progress to stage 4, the last stage. Unfortunately, I did, and many people are. And in this stage, this is the mystery illness stage. It's often triggered by big stressful life events. Okay, I'm going to talk about the 19 triggers in the next video, but just know, if you had a big, like a loss of a loved one, a betrayal, a breakup, some discord in your family or with someone you love, financial stress, this is enough to progress the virus to the next stage, because our stress hormones do feed the virus, and they do plummet our immune system. And the virus knows that, and so that it goes to the next stage. And this is the last stage, so hang in with me. In stage 4, it is now going after your central nervous system. And that's its goal, is to take down the central nervous system, to debilitate it. It has another goal in this stage, which I'll get to. But essentially, the Epstein-Barr virus now produces something that's called a neurotoxin. And that neurotoxin travels through the bloodstream, and it attacks your nerves. It also disrupts the neurotransmitters in your brain. And this is where it's causing a lot of inflammation, and it's starting to create, again, the most debilitating symptoms and diseases of our time, which is fibromyalgia, the chronic fatigue syndrome I was talking about, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, tinnitus, vertigo, restless leg syndrome. And x-rays, CAT scans, MRIs, they're not going to be able to diagnose this. The other goal of this stage is to slow down your vascular system, to decrease the amount of oxygen get moving into your organs. And remember, oxygen is an antiviral, so the less oxygen, the more that the virus is happy, because the better the home it is for it. Okay, so in that final stage, this is where we can experience also ADHD, because when it affects the brain and it affects the neurotransmitters, it starts weakening our function, our capacity to function, and it creates brain fog. It can create like restless mind. So you have bouts of being unable to be able to focus, and then bouts when you're just feeling really like depressed. It can create despondency. It also can actually be contributing to bipolar disease as well. So as you can see, this is not your immune system doing this, attacking you. This is a virus. The whole world has woken up to COVID-19, which is a virus that is already mutating, and I'm sure it will have its own course over the next 100 years. But Epstein-Barr virus once was something that was quite benign and has now mutated and is predicted in the next 20 years, if we don't get a hold on this virus, to infect youth and move to stage 4 more aggressively, more quickly. And the environmental triggers, unfortunately, only continue to increase because we're really not cleaning up the chemicals and the toxins that we're exposed to. So I'm here to educate. I'm here to educate. I'm only one voice, but I'm hoping this voice reaches millions and can get this information in the hands of those who are looking for it. Just like it was a miracle when this information came to me. And I have to say, I just want to share a little story that in my prayers for answers, I was still seeing clients. And one of my clients sent me an article. And she said, "I want you to read this article, Katie, and let me know what you think." I said, okay. I didn't read the article. Next visit, we talk. At the end of our session, she says, "Did you read that article? I want to discuss it with you." I said, "No, I haven't read the article yet." And I said, okay. Or she said, "Okay, I want you to read the article." And I was like, she's really serious about me reading this article. So I decided to read the article, and I realized halfway through this article that this was an answer to my prayers. I identified myself, I identified my family members, I identified my clients, and it was starting to give me answers. And I was so grateful. Oh my gosh, I was so grateful. And I thought, what a beautiful, just what a beautiful way for the answers to come. Here I am supporting and serving my clients, and a client brings me an article that puts me onto the next 5 years of my healing journey, and being able to be living proof of how we can heal from debilitating diseases. So if this video resonates with you, please share it. You know, the more people who can get this information in their hands, we never know who is looking for this information. A lot of us are suffering without even sharing that we are suffering, because there's a lot of shame attached to our suffering and our chronic illness as well, especially when you've been told like it's all in your head, there's nothing wrong with you. A lot of shame can come up for us. And I have a lot of compassion and heart for those who are suffering, and I want to let you know that there are answers. And so this is one out of, I think it's going to be about 3-part series. And in the second one, I'm going to talk about the triggers, and I'm going to get even more in depth into the symptoms that you're experiencing and explain to you what is causing them so that you can understand. And then the third part, we'll start to talk about how to begin your healing journey. I am a nutritionist. I am here to support you with nutrition. I also support people with tools beyond just nutrition, because our lifestyle and our self-care is also about our mind, our body, and our spirit. So reach out to me if you would like any support, if you want to kickstart your healing journey. You don't want to wait to the 3rd video. I will be running a nutrition cleanse at the beginning of August, and this 14-day nutrition reset is designed to actually support the healing from viruses and bring the body out of a debilitating state. So it's like the beginning of a healing journey, but I also work with people one-on-one to support them in their unique symptoms and healing journey. So I'm here for you. If you have any questions from this video, please leave them in the chat box or reach out to me at katielaurahamilton@gmail.com. And this was a lot of information. Thanks for sticking with me. Thank you for absorbing it. Let it integrate, see what fits, see what resonates. And yeah, I wish you all the best on your healing journey. And I will see you next week with some more information. Okay, have a wonderful day. Take care.